Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining me for this video. Thanks once again for joining me on another PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review channel video. In this video, I am going to talk about how to fix misaligned tines. And a lot of times we have these tines that are misaligned. And you'll know that it's misaligned because what will happen is you'll draw a line in one direction, and as you draw the line in one direction, let's say it's to the right, it'll feel a lot like a fishing hook dragged across the paper, whereas if you draw the line in the opposite direction, it feels really smooth. That's another indication of misaligned tines. That's a key indication of misaligned tines. Another way to check for misaligned tines is using one of these bad boys. This is a loop. This one is just the one that I got. I like it because it does this. It's supposed to have a light, but the battery must have died, and it doesn't matter. I light my workspace pretty decently, so I don't actually need it. But this big loop here is 10-time magnification. Oh, this is 30 actually, which will behoove this video because I want you guys to be able to see. Now what I have here is a fountain pen with a misaligned nib, and I deliberately misaligned it so I could demonstrate for you guys how it is that I realign my tines. There's other videos out on the internet on how to do it. I'm just going to show you my way. You can pick and choose what it is that you want to do. Now, for this, I'm going to show you two ways. The first way I'm going to show you is with the nib inside the nib unit housing with the feed. The second way I'm going to show you is with the nib pulled out. But some people don't want to pull their nibs out, so I'm going to show you the way where you keep the nib in the housing first. You're also going to need, in addition to the loop, a brass shim. Now these brass shims, they're not expensive. You can get a roll on Amazon, or you can get them at a retailer or nib tuning supply store online or whatnot. So those are pretty much the two things you're going to want to do. Should you do it with the pen filled with ink or not? That's really up to you. What I find is if you do it with ink in the pen, as you work on the pen, you're going to get really inky fingers. But who cares? We love inky fingers, right? For the case of this video, just because I don't want it to get in the way of what you're seeing, I don't have it inked up. But I suggest you do it with it inked up, so that way every time you do align the tines and you test it on paper, you'll have an ink source to test it. So let me get started. So this is going to be really difficult, but if you take a look here, I'm going to try to get, you can see that these tines are grotesquely misaligned. You can see that the left tine is way higher than the right tine through this loop, right? It's actually harder than you think to catch this on camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shim. Now, a lot of people, they like to use their thumbnails and stuff like that. I feel like the thumbnails is a little bit aggressive. I don't think it's wrong. I just think for me, I feel like it's just too aggressive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shim this brass shim in between the nib tines. Now, this is with the feed in place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently pull down on the brass shim, just like so. Okay, now I don't know if that was enough. I'm going to check my loop, and it clearly was not enough. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to shimmy it in, and I'm going to pull it down ever so slightly, just a little bit at a time. Now the way I'm doing this, it might take a little bit more times than using your thumbnail. I'm going to check it again. I'm trying to get it on camera. Still no good. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to just keep repeating the process for as many times as it takes for me to get this nib tine in alignment. Do it again, and I'm going to check it again. It's a little bit better, as you can see. Still not quite there. So I'm going to do it yet again. Shimmy it in. Fold it down and pull down on the nib tine ever so gently. I'm not going to go crazy. And then I'm going to check again. Okay. Still no. And once more. I feel like if I do it one more time, that'll be all it takes. Pressing gently. See how I have the brass shim wrapped around the tip, pulling down on it, holding it for a little bit. And then I'm going to look at it one more time. Okay, so that looks pretty good. right? So we can't go based on looks alone. As you can see, the nib tine is pretty much aligned. Now, before I say I'm good to go, I do want to test it, okay? So like I said, I didn't ink this up. I just wanted to demonstrate the technique that I used. I would test it and see how it is. And then it might need micro adjusting after that, and I would just continue doing the same thing. I might have to go in the reverse direction if I went too far, or I might have to align the other side of the tines just to fix it. Now, in this case, this nib this nib is a sacrificial lamb for the sake of this video. So as you can see, it's pretty much lined up. I'm not going to test it, but I do want to just show you the second way that I like to do it. Now, let's say you guys want to do it without using the nib while it's inside the nib housing. I'm going to yank it out. Okay, so now here we go. And this way is actually a lot easier. The thing is, the caveat to doing it this way is you have to now reinstall the nib and the feed every single time you want to test it after you align it or attempt to align it using the brass shim. Now this is going to be some heresy. I'm going to just bend this back out of alignment, okay? We're going to look at just the nib alone. All right, grotesquely out of alignment. Now, in this case, we can just either use our thumbnail, which I'm not a big fan of, and push it down a little bit, and then start with the micro adjusting using the brass shim in the same sense as I did before when the nib was in the nib unit housing. Okay, so the process is just pretty much the same thing. You're going to just do the same thing. You're going to wrap the brass shim around one side, and you're just going to gently pull it down. And then you're going to keep checking until you hit success. So I went too far. This is a good example of what I was talking about. Now I'm going to re-shim it since I went too far, and now I'm going to pull it up in the other direction ever so slightly, and then I'm going to check. Once I'm happy with it, let's say I'm happy with it, I'm going to reinstall, and then I'm going to retest, and then I'm going to keep doing this until I'm satisfied. But I like to use the brass shim instead of my fingernails because pressing, I might be a little bit pressing too hard than necessary. It's not as micro adjusty, if that's a word, than using the brass shim. So that's how I like to adjust my nibs when they are out of alignment. Now, typically, I'd rather not have to do that. I'd rather the nib stay in alignment when it leaves the factory, but sometimes it does. And then sometimes we use it, and through the course of using our pen, we misalign the nibs. So that was my Fountain Pen 101 tutorial on how to adjust misaligned tines. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments and I'll do my best to get to them. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.